When people hear the name Eric Clapton, they immediately think of one of the most influential guitarists in rock history. From Cream to Derek and the Dominoes, from solo ballads to blues standards, Clapton has left an undeniable mark on music. But behind the polished guitar riffs and soulful lyrics lies a more complicated man, one who, over the decades, has made as many enemies as fans. At 80 years old, Clapton's legacy remains secure musically, but his outspoken nature, personal feuds, and controversial statements have often put him at odds with some of the biggest names in rock. Today, we're pulling back the curtain and revealing the 6 rock stars who have openly disliked Clapton the most, and the stories behind those tensions. Let's dive in. It's impossible to talk about Clapton's rivals without starting with Jimi Hendrix. The two were introduced in the late 1960s when Hendrix first arrived in London. Clapton, already hailed as God by his fans, was considered the greatest guitarist of his generation. But everything changed the night Hendrix stepped onto a London stage. Clapton reportedly invited Hendrix to jam with Cream at a small club. To Clapton's shock, Hendrix didn't just hold his own, he stole the show. Eyewitnesses say Clapton actually left the stage, pale and shaken, muttering, "You didn't tell me he was that good." While Clapton always publicly praised Hendrix, behind the scenes there was jealousy and unease. Hendrix represented the future, louder, wilder, and more experimental. Clapton was the old guard, rooted in the blues tradition. Though Hendrix never expressed personal hatred toward Clapton, some close to him say he found Clapton overly cautious and even dismissive of his psychedelic style. The clash wasn't just about music, it was about identity. Hendrix was breaking racial barriers and reinventing rock, while Clapton, a blues purist, resented being overshadowed by a new force. To many, Clapton never truly forgave Hendrix for dethroning him in the eyes of fans and critics. Next on the list is none other than Clapton's own bandmate from Cream, the volatile drummer Ginger Baker. Their relationship was legendary for its dysfunction. Cream was a supergroup with Clapton on guitar, Baker on drums, and Jack Bruce on bass. While they created timeless hits like Sunshine of Your Love and White Room, the band was plagued by explosive fights. Baker, known for his fiery temper, clashed constantly with Bruce, and Clapton was often caught in the middle. But over time, Baker turned his fury on Clapton as well. He accused Clapton of being too soft, too unwilling to stand up during disputes, and eventually too eager to leave Cream behind. When Clapton walked away from the band in 1968, Baker felt betrayed. Decades later, Baker didn't hold back in interviews. He called Clapton overrated and suggested his playing lacked the fire of true innovation. In one interview, Baker even said Clapton was a coward for abandoning Cream when things got difficult. Their feud resurfaced during Cream's 2005 reunion shows, where tensions were still obvious. Though they managed to perform together, the old animosity never truly healed. Baker's dislike of Clapton was not only musical but deeply personal, cementing him as one of Clapton's fiercest critics. Moving beyond Clapton's immediate circle, we find Roger Waters, the legendary bassist and mastermind behind Pink Floyd. While the two never worked extensively together, their worlds collided in the 1980s. Clapton briefly toured with Pink Floyd during Waters' The Wall project, but Waters reportedly found Clapton uninspiring. Waters, known for his ambitious and often political vision, felt Clapton was too conservative musically. He wanted groundbreaking artistry, while Clapton preferred sticking to blues roots. The partnership fizzled quickly, with Waters later remarking that Clapton lacked the creative spark needed for a project as revolutionary as The Wall. Their clash highlighted a recurring theme: Clapton's disdain for progressive experimentation. Where Waters saw rock as a tool for grand statements, Clapton viewed it as a continuation of blues tradition. This philosophical divide created a quiet but deep dislike, with Waters often citing Clapton as an example of rock's unwillingness to evolve. No list of Clapton's feuds would be complete without Jack Bruce, the bassist and vocalist of Cream. While Baker and Clapton clashed openly, Bruce's issues with Clapton ran even deeper. Bruce was a powerhouse musician with a fiery personality, and his creative vision often collided with Clapton's more restrained approach. Their disputes weren't just about ego but about the very soul of the music. Bruce favored complex arrangements and improvisation, while Clapton leaned toward structured blues-based playing. The tension boiled over during Cream's short but explosive career. Fans often saw on-stage battles between Bruce's bass lines and Clapton's guitar solos, each trying to outplay the other. In later years, Bruce expressed open bitterness. He accused Clapton of taking too much credit for Cream's success, ignoring Bruce's role as the band's main songwriter. Even after the 2005 reunion, Bruce told interviewers that working with Clapton again felt like reopening old wounds. For Bruce, Clapton was less a friend than a rival, someone who never truly respected his contributions. Their strained relationship was a reminder that Cream's brilliance was fueled as much by conflict as by collaboration. One of Clapton's contemporaries who often butted heads with him was Pete Townshend, guitarist for The Who. The two respected each other's technical skills, but Townshend was outspoken in his criticism of Clapton's personality. Townshend accused Clapton of being self-indulgent and overly cautious with his music. In interviews, Townshend contrasted his own explosive stage presence with Clapton's reserved demeanor, calling Clapton too polite for rock and roll. The tension wasn't just artistic. Townshend was frustrated by Clapton's political statements, particularly his infamous 1976 rant in support of Enoch Powell, a British politician known for racist views. While Clapton's comments shocked fans worldwide, Townshend was among those who publicly condemned him. To Townshend, Clapton had tarnished his legacy not only as a musician but as a human being. Though they occasionally shared stages and jammed together, Townshend never fully forgave Clapton for what he saw as hypocrisy and arrogance. Finally, we come to Yoko Ono, the widow of John Lennon and one of the most polarizing figures in rock history. Ono and Clapton crossed paths during Lennon's Plastic Ono Band era, where Clapton briefly collaborated with Lennon. Ono reportedly found Clapton dismissive of her artistry. Clapton, a traditionalist, was baffled by Ono's avant-garde style and experimental performances. He often made jokes at her expense, which only deepened the divide. For Ono, Clapton symbolized the old boys club of rock, a circle of men who refused to take her contributions seriously. Their mutual dislike was never explosive but simmered for years, with Ono openly criticizing Clapton in later interviews as someone who never respected female artists. Eric Clapton's legacy as one of the greatest guitarists of all time is undeniable. Yet, as this list shows, even legends have their enemies. From Hendrix, who dethroned him as the guitar god, to former bandmates like Baker and Bruce, to outspoken critics like Waters, Townshend, and Ono, Clapton's career has been shadowed by rivalries and resentment. Perhaps it's a reminder that greatness often comes with conflict, that behind the music we love are human beings with flaws, egos, and grudges. Clapton may have been adored by millions, but in the rock world, admiration and animosity often go hand in hand. And in the end, Clapton's story proves one thing: even a guitar god can't escape the judgment of his peers.